3, 2, 1.
Good morning. Welcome the audience, members of the public and officers involved to this public decision session by the Executive Member for Children, Young People and Education for the City of York. I'm Councillor Ian Cuthbertson and I'm the Executive Member concerned. This session was originally scheduled to be an in-person meeting carried out in public at West offices. However, because of recent developments in the progress of the pandemic and infection rates, there were concerns expressed at leader and chief operating officer level about the nature of public contact and the undesirable possibility of propagating the virus. And so there was a decision made, which was that the council should hold remote live broadcast committee meetings with any formal decisions required being taken by the Chief Operating Officer under his emergency delegated powers. And this is to ensure that the safety and welfare of members, officers and the public can be maintained. So remote live broadcast committee meetings are therefore recommended. I can tell you that the Chief Operating Officer is aware of the nature of the decision that will be taken, or the decisions that will be taken this morning, and the fact that they have been considered and discussed beforehand and during this meeting. Before we start into the agenda, I'm going to deal with 2 or 3 minor administrative matters. First item on the agenda being declarations of interest. I'm asked at this point to declare any personal interests not included on the register of interest, and any prejudicial interests and any disclosable pecuniary interests which I may have in respect of the business on the agenda. I'm pleased to confirm that I have no prejudicial interests nor any disclosable pecuniary interests on items on the agenda, nor do I have any personal interests which are not included in my register of interests entry. I have in front of me the minutes of the decision sessions on the 12th of October 2021 and the 14th of December 2021. I should say that these are mentioned under item 2 of the agenda. Since I'm physically remote from West offices at the moment, I've confirmed that I will sign these minutes, having approved them on reading through them at the earliest opportunity. Public participation is item 3 on the agenda, and I'm told that there are no members of the public who have registered to speak by the deadline of Friday, the 7th of January 2022. And I don't know if our clerk or Angela Bealby is here. Angela, can you just confirm that? I think that said yes, you can confirm that, Angela. On the basis that that's been confirmed, I'm going to proceed now to item 4 on the agenda, which is the admissions arrangements for the school year 2023 to 2024. And the report seeks approval of admissions policies and published admission numbers, PAN, for community and voluntary control schools, for which the City of York Council is the administrative authority for the school year beginning September 2023. I'm going now to ask either Barbara Manns, who's our school education support officer, or Rachel. Sorry, Rachel, I've forgotten your surname for the moment.
Rachel White.
Rachel White. Okay, to introduce the report, and at that point I will ask some questions about the contents and then we'll make the decision. So either Barbara or Rachel, whichever's going to hold the reins for the next few moments.
That'll be myself.
Right. Thank
So
you, Rachel.
just to give a little bit of a very brief overview of the report, which is quite long. So this is regarding the coordinated admission schemes and admission arrangements for the school year 2023 to 24. In summary, the report seeks the approval of the admissions policies and published admission numbers, also referred to as PANS, for community and voluntary controlled schools, for whom City of York Council is the admission authority. It seeks the approval of the coordinated admission schemes for the City of York area, and it seeks the approval of the proposed admission number reductions for 2 of our maintained schools, which are Carr Infant School and Westfield Primary School. We also ask for recommendations to approve, again, the published admission number. This is a statutory requirement in line with the School Admissions Code, and the coordinated schemes and admissions policies, again, to meet our statutory requirements. So we offered all of our schools, including those in a multi-academy trust, to be part of our coordinated admission consultation. All of our multi-academy trusts did take part in that. The consultation must take place for 6 weeks, and that is part of the admissions code criteria. So we had the school coordinated admissions consultation on our website, with all schools and stakeholders communicated that it was there with the relevant documents to be attached. So the first proposal is that the reduction in the admission number for Carr Infant School from 90 to 60. As this is one of our maintained schools, the recommendation is that is approved. We also have the reduction of the published admission number for Westfield Primary School from 90 to 75. We also advise that that is approved. That is in line with our pupil forecasts. Both schools and governing bodies of the schools have confirmed that they will amend the published admission number if necessary in the future based on our pupil forecasts, and we have that support of the schools. They are, like I say, our maintained schools, so they are seeking approval. We're also seeking support from City of York Council regarding the reduction in the published admission number for Robert Wilkinson Primary School, which is part of the Ebor Academy Trust. They are looking to reduce their published admission number from 85 to 75. Again, the school, the governing body and the trust are working with the council should that need to be changed in the future in line with pupil forecasts. In terms of admission policy changes, the admission policy changes for City of York Council, there are no changes to those policies which were approved in August following the new admissions code from 2021. In terms of our multi-academy trust schools, Heworth Church of England Primary School and also St Lawrence's Church of England Primary School, both of whom are part of the Pathfinder Multi-Academy Trust, are looking to amend their admissions policy in line with the Church of England diocese. So they work very closely with the diocese to ensure that their admissions policies are in line with the diocese policies. The change which we are looking to support is the removal of the criteria of other world faiths. This would bring both school policies in line again with the diocese policies. Also, it is considered to be inclusive. It's not that other world faiths will be excluded, rather that other world faiths will be encompassed within the other criteria which are available. So it isn't about excluding other world faiths, it's just that that criteria is no longer deemed to be suitable within the policy, and the diocese support that. They have a template effectively which the school are looking to implement. So again, like I say, we are looking to support the proposal that Pathfinder make with those policies. Obviously, as a multi-academy trust, they will determine their own admission arrangements, but because it is a coordinated consultation, we include it within the report and look to support their recommendations. There are no catchment changes proposed within this consultation. All of the consultation and recommendation changes were included within that consultation period. The admission consultation responses were limited, and we do feel that this was probably because there were so few changes to the admissions arrangements and the catchment areas. So the admission consultation responses are detailed briefly within the report. Any consultation responses regarding the multi-academy trust proposals have also been forwarded to the trusts for their consideration when determining their own policies and admission arrangements. In conclusion, we would recommend approving the PAN reduction for Carr Infant School and Westfield Primary School, and supporting the PAN reduction at Robert Wilkinson Primary, while also supporting the admission policy changes at Heworth C of E Primary School and St Lawrence's C of E Primary School. So that is myself done in brief.
Thank you, Rachel. And it's good to know that you didn't take 382 pages of speech to explain all that. Thank you. I'd like to ask one or two questions about the way in which the changes are being implemented. One question is about the approval arrangements. I think it's down to the academy and multi-academy trusts to confirm their own changes at their own formal meetings, and it's not up to the local authority to actually confirm those changes for them. We are confirming our support for the changes which they propose. Should I do so later in this meeting? You're muted, Rachel.
Sorry, my apologies. Yes, that's correct. We look to support, or indeed if we didn't support, we could disagree with the proposals that are put forward by the Multi-Academy Trust, but ultimately they do determine their own admission arrangements in a similar meeting that we have here. Hence why we have our consultation slightly earlier to allow for the responses to be fed back to the Multi-Academy Trust, and then for them to determine their own admission arrangements before the 28th of February.
Okay, understood. Thank you. A word about published admission numbers, if that's okay, please. I don't know if you want to make any further comment, but for me, the published admission number may change in a school depending on the birth rate or the anticipated birth rate in the catchment area of the school, or in affected catchment areas should the authority decide to change the catchment area arrangements. But it also depends on the space physically available at the school and the arrangements within the school for having single year groups, or perhaps joint age groups where perhaps year 3 and year 4 or year 5 and year 6 might be sharing a class facilities. So you have a combined age groups in those stages. That might affect the requirement for a PAN change at some point in the future. So for members of the public who are listening, that's the reason why the PAN, published admission number, might change, because of both anticipated birth rates and also the operational arrangements within the school, and also possibly due to any catchment area changes by the local authority. I don't know if you want to make any comment about a Carr Infant School, Rachel, other than your general comment about the PAN changes.
Yeah, so Carr Infant School, like I say, they are looking to reduce their PAN. We do look at PAN reduction requests in line with the school and their own school organisation, like you say, regarding whether they're going to have set year groups, mixed classes, etc. So within the forecast, we are confident that the PAN reduction won't mean that we have sufficiency issues within the area. It's to allow for the school to arrange their classroom organisation. And like I say, with regards to both schools, they have agreed that in the future, should it be required, they would increase their PAN.
Okay, and presumably the reduced PAN effectively gives the admission number being accepted at the school. It compresses it slightly, and it means that in-year admissions have to be handled more carefully should they be requested.
Yes, that's correct. So with regards to a PAN reduction, obviously it will come into effect for the year that we are consulting on currently. Within that is the published admission number. So that is the minimum number that a school will accept. But for example, if a school required, there was a sudden influx of children and we were required to go over that number, we would do that with discussion within the school to meet the needs of the catchment area.
Okay, and you meant a maximum number, didn't you, when you talked about that in the first sentence, in your first sentence there?
So the published admission number is the number that we look to admit, but we can discuss that with the school if we're required to make exceptions to that.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Okay. I know that British Sugar development is mentioned in connection with Carr Junior School, and that we're expecting that will take rather more years than was originally considered to come to fruition. Do you want to make any comment on that?
So that is a development, along with a number of our developments, that we are monitoring closely in terms of when we would expect that to effectively produce children that would join our school system. So like you say, it has been delayed. So we do monitor the progress of the developments, like I say, included within that is British Sugar. And as such, that is why we have discussed with the school and the governing body agreement that once we know that the demand is there in terms of the developments, we will look to discuss with them whether there's the need to increase their published admission number at that point.
Right, okay. And moving on to Westfield, there's a reduction in PAN from 90 to 75, which presumably is affected by the same development.
Yes, so they are very close, and we would expect that once the British Sugar development is well underway, that we would then look to discuss the published admission numbers with all of the schools in the locality to see what may be required in lines with the development completion and then the pupil yield from that development.
Okay. I suppose I should mention it's not a declarable interest, I think, but I do live in Strensall Ward. So the next item, Robert Wilkinson Primary School, could in theory have some effect on me, although I'm not proposing to increase the size of my family in the next few years. So I just want to ask you about what we know about the proposal for Strensall Barracks, where Forces families will have an impact on the PAN for Robert Wilkinson Primary Academy.
Yes, so with Robert Wilkinson, obviously there is some uncertainty regarding the barracks and the use of what will be the barracks, whether that will be developed, reconditioned, etc. So Robert Wilkinson School is actually very unique because obviously it is a village school with no other schools within the area and also no other schools within a reasonable distance. Therefore, we do have the ability, if necessary and only if necessary, that the school can accept accepted pupils, whereby we aren't able to offer another another reasonable offer. Robert Wilkinson have always been very committed to accepting their catchment pupils, and again, in line with the other schools that we've mentioned, we do work closely with the schools so that once the development or the plans for the barracks is finalised, we can then discuss with the school what might be required in terms of any published admission number changes.
Okay, thank you. I think I'm quite content with the proposals in respect of these 3 schools at this stage. Can I move on to the changes in school admission policy which are being proposed by Heworth C of E Primary School and St Lawrence's CE Primary School, in which we're removing a criterion 7, which covers children living outside the parish who regularly worship or whose parents regularly worship at a recognised place of worship for other world faiths. And there's another criterion there, criterion 5, and criterion 9, which cover roughly the similar category of pupils. You've assured me that this is an inclusive, it's not an exclusive removal, if I can rephrase that slightly. And on the basis of what you've said and what I know to be happening elsewhere within the Anglican diocese, then I'm content with to approve the proposals. And I think in terms of the matters to be decided today, that concludes the discussion, I think, for this. It might be helpful if in a future version of this, and we mentioned the initials SCAP, if we could include that in the glossary, because I don't think either of us know exactly what that means. So thank you for that. So I'll move on to my decision, which is simply this, that the 2 maintained school PAN changes at Car Infant and Westfield primary schools are approved, and that I approve support for the reduced PAN at Robert Wilkinson Primary Academy. And I also approve the changes to the admission criteria for the schools Heworth Church of England Primary and St Lawrence's Church of England Primary as described in the report. And on that basis, I think that concludes the decision that needs to be made. I don't have any other item of other business to consider at this meeting. And unless there's any further comment from the 2 officers that I can see on my screen, that's Rachel and Barbara, I'm proposing to close the meeting. Do I take it there's no further comment?
No further comment. Thank you, Councillor Cuthbertson.
Okay. I can see Barbara lip reading. I can see what you're saying.
Yeah, sorry, no further comment.
Okay, wonderful. In which case, the matter's decided and I close the meeting. Thank you very much for attending and for your support in making this decision, officers. Thank you.
Thank you.